Amnesty can only be granted to those convicted of a crime. At a stretch, you might argue amnesty for those merely alleged or charged but not yet convicted of a crime, but that's a misunderstanding of the concept. Amnesty is the granting of pardon to those who would ordinarily be punished for their crimes should those crimes be discovered in the ordinary course of events. Amnesty encourages the voluntary purging of evil deeds by exposing them to sunlight. Amnesty, therefore, makes no sense at all in the case of innocence. If you're innocent, then you don't need amnesty. You're innocent. So for those now calling for a COVID amnesty, that doesn't actually require the wrongdoers to admit they've done any wrong at all. You're actually calling for a whitewash, a great sweeping under the rug. I'm sure what you really meant to call for is COVID wrongdoers to apologize, yes, and for COVID victims to then forgive. That is the way forward. But without an admission of error, all we have is an abusive yet puerile demand for no consequences. Never mind forgive and forget. Let's just get straight to the forget part, hey? Even Monopoly makes you earn the get out of jail free card through the roll of a dice, but you want one for free? No, there will be no amnesty until an admission of wrong is made. An apology would be the next step after that, but it's not strictly necessary. Just an admission would open the door for an amnesty to be granted. With the exception of some highly principled officials in enlightened parts of Europe, there has been no admission of getting this so wrong, and there certainly hasn't been an apology for what was done to everyone outside of the laptop class. The essential workers, the low-paid workers, the small business owners, the children, the students, the families who couldn't cushion themselves from the devastation of government overreach and, at times, policy absurdity. As the laptop class cheered on more and more lockdowns, whilst receiving extra COVID leave and payments to cope with all of the stress, the rest of us fought for our lives. Some lost that fight to sickness, both to COVID and to lockdown-induced sickness such as delayed screenings. Some lost that fight to despair. I am haunted by DMs that live on in my inbox, written now by ghosts who ended it all. No, there will be no amnesty. We can argue over which side of every single government measure was correct or not, but it doesn't really matter. We could make a case for how you terminally squashed our jobs and our businesses by doing too much, or we could make a case for how you didn't do enough for the elderly and the vulnerable who died like dry grass in a wildfire. We could, on one hand, make a case for how you stuffed up the vaccine rollout, or we could make a case for how you tricked us into taking them. We could make a case for how you wouldn't borrow and spend the money needed to support us through your scientifically stupid lockdowns, or we could make a case for how you borrowed and spent billions on white elephants and enabled the largest transfer of wealth to the ultra-rich that we've ever seen. No, there will be no amnesty. You've made our world unhealthier, more unjust, more unequal, more divided, and more fearful. You've divided Team Human against itself and conveniently taken the focus off you, the governing elite, and your shenanigans. Then you censored us when we said, let the children play, called us science deniers, keeping our playgrounds and our schools closed. You censored us when we tried to tell you that for some, our first or our second or our third or our fourth dose really damaged us and we need help. You unilaterally fired and banished some of us from society, and the momentum of your segregation endures today in emboldened corporate HR departments who no longer believe in equality and anti-discrimination. Worst of all, you kept blaming us. We didn't comply enough. You didn't tell us who exactly, only that someone hypothetical in the community wasn't pulling their weight, and so was truly to blame for keeping us all in detention and destroying our livelihoods, our schooling, and our relationships. There will be no amnesty. Not because we weren't granted, but because you keep claiming that you're innocent. If you're so innocent, you don't need no amnesty. We are Team Human, and those of us who survived your worldwide Milgram experiment are stronger and more resilient, ready to stand up against your garbage. Choose your next move wisely, because further dividing and polarizing our community will backfire. It may be time to unite and heal, but first comes an almighty reckoning.